So there were three options, main options for me to get this camera down my throat. And if I didn't want anesthesia, the doctor's like, if you really just want us to numb your throat, to be precautious and for you to have no discomfort, I would suggest we give you a little bit of fentanyl. And I'm like, fentanyl? Hell no. Like, I'm literally saying to the doctor, hell no. Absolutely not. My father died of fentanyl. I'm not doing fentanyl. Y'all not giving me any fentanyl. Absolutely not. I'm questioning if I'm really going to do this procedure now. Do I want this procedure? Too much is going on, too many options when there was already a plan in place back in August of 2023. I don't know anymore. I'm having some anxiety. I am nervous now. What's going to happen with my life at this point? So it's a little story time. I want to tell a story and hope to give some insight on the things that I go through and also to answer some questions for people. I have people who message me, contact me, and ask me, how am I so strong? How do I get through the things that I get through? Or like, how do I keep going with all the illnesses and things that I encounter? So this past weekend has been a fighting weekend for me to push through the pain. So I thought, why not continue to share? I shared a little bit last week in my story. February 20th, 10:25 a.m. I'm just trying to eat. I cooked some spaghetti and meatballs for my child. There we go. And I'm just trying to eat. No stop bleeding. I'm choking, throwing up, something like this. But the day's just getting started. The devil will not win. This body will not win. I will get better. And we will enjoy our day, right?
Day.
We're going to enjoy our day.
Look at this look.
Let me take a look. Do you want to take a look? Can you see me?
I see you.
All right, now. Keep seeing your mama.
What's up? Oh no, Trey, what's up?
So I wanted to go deeper into what I've been experiencing these last few days. So last Wednesday, I experienced some choking and my nose bleeding. My nose had already been bleeding since Sunday. There's some unjustifiable health conditions going on why my nose bleeds. My nose been bleeding since Sunday, and then I start choking as I try to eat my breakfast, and my nose is bleeding. So I'm concerned, but I'm like, I need to push through this pain. My spirit was already high in happiness because I got up. I asked my son what he wanted for breakfast, and he said meatballs. So I decided to make a whole big pot of spaghetti and meatballs. To me, it's more important that my son eats than what he eats. So some people may say spaghetti for breakfast. Long as he's eating is what's important to me. He needs to have nutrition in his body. Yes, he needs to eat though. He needs to gain weight, things like that. My baby was born premature, so I was excited that I had the energy to even make this spaghetti, and it could be for lunch and dinner as well. Saves me some time to do other things in the day. So my spirit was high. I was having a great day, but when I sat down to eat my own breakfast and I'm choking, I'm nervous, thinking, what's going on with me? And I'm bleeding from my nose, so I'm concerned by that. But I'm like, you know what? Don't let this bring me down because I've had nosebleed experiences in the past. Like I was in college, in high school and stuff, and my nose would bleed. So I didn't want it to concern me. And I knew that I already had these illnesses, and I had a scheduled upper endoscopy the next day. So Wednesday, I'm experiencing this. Thursday, I'm having this upper endoscopy for choking. I have scleroderma. Scleroderma has closed my esophagus. My skin is tight. Things are not operating the way they used to be. So I have to remind myself of that. And I didn't want to continue to have anxiety and freak out about it. Nobody has professionally diagnosed me with anxiety, but it's being nervous. I don't know. Maybe you don't need a diagnosis for anxiety, but I know I've been living in some fear and I get anxious and I'm thinking like, is this my last moment? But on Wednesday, I was like, I don't want to ruin the day. Me and my son's going to have a great day. I had this upper endoscopy tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. We can see what the problem is, if they can fix it, or, let's monitor my throat more, my esophagus, and my digestive system. So to push forward to the next day, trying to make a long story short, but it won't be so short, I went to the upper endoscopy. I already had feelings of it. I already had concerns about it because I was supposed to have this upper endoscopy in 2021, around that time. But the GI doctor that I had at the time, he basically just disconnected with me once I said I didn't want any anesthesia. I had one appointment with him, and then I was supposed to have more appointments with him, and he had his nurse call me, and I was like, I don't want anesthesia. Never heard from them again. And I was supposed to get a referral for another GI doctor, but that really didn't happen. You have to have referrals for specialty doctors most of the time. I don't know, the Lord be with me. So I happened to request a special GI doctor at another clinic that I go to. So I'm in hospitals and clinics. So my health is around the world, kind of, not literally around the world, but in different clinics. So it wasn't working out at the hospital. I said, let me try this clinic and see if I can get a GI assigned to me. And I did. Without the referral, I was able to get a GI, a new GI. I met with this GI doctor, and she explained that we'll do the upper endoscopy. My rheumatologist, who follows me for scleroderma, also wanted me to get this upper endoscopy. So I'm like, I'm going to do it because I want to know what can I do to better my eating habits and swallowing and digesting. I want to know how I can better help my system. So I was up for the upper endoscopy, but again, I didn't want any anesthesia. One, because I've had other doctors say to me, with all my illnesses, it's a risk to be under anesthesia. And I just didn't want to be put to sleep myself. Like, I have all these illnesses. I want to live. That's what I keep reminding myself. So if there's another way we can do it, let's try that other way. So this GI doctor told me she could numb my throat and do like a little anesthesia, but not a lot, where I can feel comfortable. That was the plan of August of 2023. We're in 2024. It's February 27th right now, 2024, and I'm telling this story. This happened then. That was the plan. So my upper endoscopy was scheduled for September of 2023. It got canceled because of the hospital not having enough nurses and doctors. I was like, that's kind of weird, but everybody's still living in this pandemic world. People aren't working anymore. Things are shortened. There's not enough staff, whatever. So they rescheduled my appointment for that November. And to me, again, I'm having some anxiety. I'm living with more fear than faith at this point. And so I was like, nah, this is during the holiday season. Something could go wrong. Like, I'm good. I don't want to do it. I canceled it. So I wanted to enjoy my holiday season. Again, I've had past experiences of choking. I was in high school, wrote a whole college essay on my life was about to be over. I thought I was going to die because I was walking up the stairs and choking. So now that my throat has this issue, my esophagus and my digestive system, I have fear of that. Like, I have moments of choking because the food is not breaking down properly, which happened on Wednesday, which was February 21st. So I'm like, that's not the first time I ate food and I was choking. But that was the first time I ate food. I'm choking and my nose is bleeding. But again, my nose bleeding is a whole nother health condition that has been unjustified. I had already been having a nosebleed since Sunday. So that's something that I have to talk to the doctors about, or I've been talking to the doctors about. But this particular topic is about my digestive system and swallowing and digesting the food right. So even now, see, the more I talk, the more my throat gets dry and like things just happen. So, and I got the heat on because I'm cold. But anyway, so I go to the upper endoscopy appointment. But before I get to the appointment, the hospital called me that morning. My appointment was scheduled for 10:30 to be there for check-in, get set up, and then the procedure will happen probably around 11:30. They called me at like 7 a.m. and the receptionist was just checking in saying that was I still having an appointment, was I still coming to the appointment. I said yes, I'll be there. And then I went to get dressed, take my shower and everything, and I come back, I got 4 missed calls and a message, and the receptionist was calling me back asking if I could come in earlier. So I called them back and she's like, yeah, can you come in earlier? I guess they had a cancellation or something. I couldn't really understand everything she was saying. She had an accent and she was all over the place because people were talking to her in the background, like, why can't I come in early and stuff? Like, they were interrupting her, interrupting me. The conversation just wasn't going the way it should have been going. But I took the initiative to say, no, I'm coming in at the time that I was scheduled. I can't make it there. I live an hour away from the hospital. I can't make it now. They wanted me to come in now. No, I can't. I'll be there when for the time that was set. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, here we go again. Like, this is something that's just not right. But I said, don't let that interrupt me. Don't let that disturb me. Basically, keep thinking positive. This is going to be a positive procedure. The doctor had told me it's only a 10-minute procedure. Things will go well. So I got dressed. My husband and son got dressed. I have to have a driver because, again, the procedure is supposed to have some anesthesia or whatever. But to me, it's not a lot of anesthesia. So I get to the appointment. My son's there. He wants to give me my hugs and kisses. He always wants to be by my side, which I appreciate. I love it. He's very supportive and compassionate about my well-being and others. So I love that about my son, and I pray that he's able to continue that compassion in his adulthood. I get set up in my bed and they're ready to put an IV in. You have to have some kind of fluids to go through these procedures. The first lady come over and she tells me she can't really feel a vein, which I know. I always have issues with finding veins to get my blood drawn or to have an IV because my skin is tight, my veins are small, they say. So there's always some kind of issue, but some people have success. This lady's like, I feel bruising. She never tries, which I appreciate because I'd rather not be stuck multiple times. To fasten up the story, the anesthetist, whatever you call them, the person who does the anesthesia comes over and he starts explaining what the procedure is going to be. And I'm like, I never said I was having like anesthesia while I'd be put to sleep. And so he's like, really? Well, that's going to be painful. That's not going to be comfortable. I'll let the doctor know so she can come over and explain it to you. Doctor comes over and she's explaining to me that that wasn't an option at the other hospital because they didn't have that option. But now that she's at a new hospital, they have this option. She left the other hospital because they didn't have enough staff either, and the appointments kept getting canceled. So she's now at this hospital and wanted to offer me that option. And I said, well, I don't want the option. I want the same option we had when we first talked. I'm a little confused of why you are doing that, but she explained that that's what it was because it's a new option. So I'm like, all right, I still don't want that option. But it kind of seemed like it was still like a push for that option. Anyways, to fasten it up, she goes, leave, go check her notes, and I'm getting the IV put in, but they can't find my veins. One guy, he tried, couldn't get it, didn't want to try again. Appreciate him. Another guy, he's touching, trying to feel, he can't find it. He said he don't even want to try either. So then they get the machine so they can do an ultrasound. You can do an ultrasound to find the veins. It looks like when you're having a baby, that kind of ultrasound. So they do that ultrasound and they see veins, but then they still don't see veins. Like it's they thin. So I'm having a difficult time getting this IV put in. The guy who explained the anesthesia, who's going to be the person in charge of the anesthesia, he comes over so he can put the IV in. Now he's working on this left arm. I told him this is the best side where they usually find a vein in my forearm here. So he goes in, like after he does the anesthesia, after he does the ultrasound, he has the gel on there. He said he found a vein. He jams the needle in, and not only is it hurting, it's burning. So I'm just like, I'm taking it for a second. I'm taking it, but then it started hurting more. So I'm just like, no, take it out. Like, just, forget it, take it out. So he takes it out. He comes over on this side. He ain't wiped this side, nothing. Blood just dripping. And I'm like, are you gonna clean this up? He's like, yeah, but I might have to go back to that side. But I'm like, but you could still clean it up now. So he wipes it, still bleeding. At this point, I took a picture now. This is the second time. So this picture here it's bleeding for the second, like he had already cleaned it and it's bleeding again. He also said, somebody please get her a Band-Aid. Like, I'm telling you, he was real insensitive. And I just had to block out the negativity and say, find somebody else. He was nice at the beginning when he first came in. He had saw my son and my husband, and he asked Logic if he wanted some cookies. And then when he was explaining the procedure to me, he said, oh, you have a nice, polite son. I gave him some cookies, and he said, thank you. I have a 5-year-old, and I try to get them to say thank you. Like, I try to teach them to say thank you. Your son is very nice and polite. Like, he was being a polite person, but once he stuck me with that needle and I didn't like it, it just changed from there. And he may have tried to have good intentions on rooting me on and saying what he was saying. He may have thought it was good, but it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good compassionate. It wasn't good consulting. It wasn't good comforting. It wasn't good comforting. That's what he was doing wasn't making it better. It was making it worse for me in my head. He goes in to say, it's a needle. What do you expect is going to hurt? So now I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I don't even want you to touch me anymore. He says, oh, so you're giving up? You're giving up now? And I'm just like, this is too much for somebody who's supposed to be sticking me, because to me, I remember like early on in my life, somebody told me, I don't know, it could have been in school, that if they hit the wrong vein or something, like life could just end. Like it could be dangerous. So I don't want this man touching me anymore. Listen to what he's saying. So I'm telling him, you're being very insensitive. I know it's a needle, but it don't have to hurt that bad. I've had my blood drawn before, and it don't hurt. It don't need to hurt that bad. Well, this is not your blood getting drawn. This is what he's saying to me. This is the IV. We're putting the IV in. So I said, okay. It still don't have to hurt that bad. So he's like, well, what do you want? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? I said, I don't want you to touch me. Find somebody else. There is nobody else. So he's telling me there's nobody else. I'm like, there got to be somebody else. Like, this is a hospital. Well, I don't want you to touch me. So he goes over to the reception desk and he's like, well, she doesn't want me to touch her. She keeps freaking out when I try to put a vein in. So I'm going to go take my lunch. He's standing at the desk with a couple of other medical personnel. And they're just saying things, talking. And at this point, I'm kind of hyped. I'm hyped myself, like, I'm good. I don't really want to do this, because I had already had some back and forth with them about not doing the anesthesia. So I'm confused about this. I had already told the doctor when she said she wanted to do the anesthesia because it was an option, and I told her no. And she's like, she tells me that it was an option at this hospital, whatever. So I ended up telling her no, I want to go with the other procedure. He told me that there was the anesthesia guy had explained the same thing that I thought I was getting at the beginning. So that's what I was going with. That's what I had agreed on. Okay, numb my throat and give me a little bit of anesthesia, where he said I'll be out of it, but I will be out of it a little bit, but I'll still be awake. So when the doctor had came back and she explained that to me, she said she had looked at her notes, which I thanked her for. But to me, you should have been looking at your notes. So I thanked her for looking at her notes, and she said, "What you're getting, what you agreed on now is what you agreed on back in August." And I was like, "Okay." So that's what the plan was. But again, we was having some difficulties getting this IV in. And so when he went to the desk and he's talking to the other people and they saying things, I hear a nurse say, "Well, why won't the doctor just make her something?" I really felt it in me to say something, but I was like, nah, because it's just gonna make me even more hype, and it's me against them. I don't have nobody here. My husband and son left, like they're not here. I don't have nobody. I had already told the doctor once, like, I don't think I want to do this because the plan keeps changing. So it was up to me, like, I can scream across the room, seem crazy, and it'd be me against them, or I could get up and leave, or I could stay and get the procedure. So I had already had the back and forth with the doctor, like I said. I had told her I didn't feel comfortable at first. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it anymore. And then I decided, okay, I will do it. So I had to sit with myself and say, this is what I'm gonna do. And I had to just pray to the Lord and say, if this was meant to be, then it will be. If it's not, then it won't happen, because they can't do the procedure without the IV. The doctor came over several times and trying to check on me to see if the procedure would happen. And another reason why I did not say anything, like yell across the room, was because the receptionist who had called me, was genuine the whole time that I was there, I saw her look over. So that was another cue to me, like, somebody already recognizes that something's not right, and she was putting in the effort to find somebody downstairs in the other department to put this IV in for me. So again, I had to think to myself, like, do I make more of a commotion or do I let it be? So that was my choice. My choice was to not say anything, because I did see her putting in the work, disregarding everybody else's negativity. She was on the phone, looked back, said something like, probably like, y'all need to be quiet. And she put in the effort and in the work to find somebody else to help me, which ended up being helpful. The receptionist was genuine from the beginning. When she called me, she was nice. When I met her in person, she was nice. She said, "You have a pretty name." She was a genuine professional person, and she did try to vouch for the anesthesiologist, the guy who was in charge of the anesthesia at first, until I explained to her what he was saying and doing, because she was like, he is the best, he is the only person here. But then I was like, he's being very insensitive. And she was like, okay. And then that's when she went over to try to find somebody else to help. And I'm trying to focus because my story is jumping. It is jumping a little bit. So like I said, when he left, they had more people come over to try to help. So they found a nurse that works in a different department downstairs. And she came up, she's using the machine, and she tries 2 times. So at this point, I've been stuck about four to five times. I've already been stuck. And the doctor came back again, and the doctor was like, um, is there any success? And I asked the doctor, like, can you do it? And she's like, oh no, they're the expert. She's the expert at it. She can do it better. But the lady didn't want to do it anymore because she had already tried 2 times. So she said, there's one other person in our unit that is the best that I can ask to come and try. And so then the lady who came the first time, who said I had bruises, who never tried at all, she said, well, I think we shouldn't try anymore. If she want to try, let her try one more time. But after that one stick, I don't think we should keep trying, because this is enough for a patient. Again, I've been stuck about 5 times at this point. And so I think that lady, like, well, thank you, because that is true. I don't want to keep being stuck, and it is a lot on me. I'm already mentally drained from the other guy talking about giving up. Like, no, I wasn't giving up. I was being cautious, because anything can happen. And that is just so rude and insensitive to say. As a doctor, as a nurse, as a medical provider, like, you talking about giving up? This ain't sports. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, you giving up? I'm giving up. My arm is bleeding over here and it's stinging and burning, and you jammed me, and then you eager to just poke me in this arm. No, I'm good. You're being insensitive. I'm so good. I know what I already been through. I know what I feel, and that's what I told him too. Like, you don't feel what I feel. So again, my story starts jumping around a little bit, but so the last person comes over and comes up the stairs to help, and long story short, she ended up getting an IV in. So to me, that was like, okay, again, if it wasn't meant to be, she would not have been able to get that IV in. This is the last person that was gonna try anyway. So if it wasn't meant to be, then the IV wouldn't have went through. She got the IV in. He came back from his lunch again. He's the only guy to do the anesthesia. That so they said, I don't want to argue anymore. I'm surrendering at this point. If it was my time to go, then it was my time to go. That's not what I want. I'm not saying like I'm suicidal and I wanted to go. I wanted to survive. I wanted to be there for my son and stuff. I live life. So I just had to pray on it though, because again, I wanted to know what was going on as well. I wanted the procedure too. I pushed it back so many times. The doctors pushed it back and all that. So I'm just praying on it. I go into the room to get the procedure done. And this is where it became hard for me because he numbed my throat. He sprayed something. I had to drink something, numb my throat. One of the nurses who was saying why the doctor wouldn't make me whatever, she ended up being a person in the room too. So I got two people in the room that I'm just like, wow, like these are people who said some negative things. The doctor never said anything negative. She always was explaining to me why she was suggesting the anesthesia and stuff. But I'm just praying on it. So this is what I do. I just had to pray on it. Again, somebody else would have been walked out, called somebody or whatever. I did call my husband. I was texting him what was going on, and he was on his way back because I told him it might not be happening. I'm telling him what's going on, and I'm texting him. I'm like, if anything happened, do some investigation because this is what's going on with me right now. So that was the best I could do, was just keep an open communication with my husband just in case something did go wrong. But other than that, I had to put my faith over my fear at this time if I wanted to get this procedure done and trust in the doctor. Like I said, I had to appreciate that she did go back and look at her notes. I am disappointed that all this wasn't looked at beforehand and the plan wasn't maintained from her looking back at her notes. It had to be me processing it, the guy telling me what my options are, her telling me what my options are. It should have just been what it was when we first met in August, but it wasn't. So whatever, it happened, that happened. So now I'm in the procedure room, and he put the, like I said, my throat gets numb. I drink something else, and now they like lay on your side. And he said, okay, I'm gonna start the little bit of anesthesia. He gave me, it's called Verde or something like that, to put the name of it up there. But again, the way it was explained to me is that this kind of anesthesia wasn't gonna put me to sleep. It was just gonna make me out of it a little bit. I swear on everything, no. Like I said, once they told me to get on my side, that was it. I don't remember nothing else after that besides them saying, procedure's over, get up, Shania. That's all I remember. Them rolling me into the recovery section, and the doctor is trying to explain to me what she found, what happened. She got her coat on. She ready to go. And I'm just like this, like trying to stay awake. She keeps tapping me. I'm like trying to stay awake. And she just keeps tapping me and telling me, explaining to me what she did and what she found and whatever. Gave my papers. She left. They called transportation to wheel me down, said I couldn't walk myself down, and to make sure that I had a driver because I couldn't drive myself. So I had to be wheeled out to make sure that I wasn't driving myself, and my husband was there to pick me up. I get home, I cook me something to eat, and it's just like the emotions are just hitting me. I fell asleep in the car. My husband told me, he said, I tried to stay up, but I just couldn't stay up. I just kept going back to sleep. And so the emotions are hitting me as I eat because I just felt violated. I was like, this wasn't the plan. Like, I wasn't supposed to go to sleep. I was told that I was going to stay up. I was going to be able to swallow. She was going to tell me to swallow the tube. And when I asked her, as she was explaining to me what happened, I said, did I go to sleep? She said, no, you didn't go to sleep. But I felt like I did, and I did go to sleep. Like, there were times I went to sleep. So my brain felt like I wasn't supposed to go to sleep at all. But again, it's anesthesia. So in and out, when they explain in and out to me, in and out is in and out of sleep. So I was disappointed that I didn't understand that. I did not want to be in and out that way at all. If I would have known it was going to be in and out sleeping like that, then I felt like I would have said no. But again, I wanted the procedure. So the main thing of this story is that I survived through it, and that's what I had to be grateful of, that the fact that I did survive through it. And if there was any malfunction or whatever, if there was any mistreatment, karma comes around, and I don't wish any bad on anybody. And I just was thankful that I survived through it. So I just sat with my emotions. I cried through it, and I went to sleep. My husband was like, "Go ahead, take your time, take your nap, whatever you want to do." I got logic. I'll make sure he don't interrupt you. And so for the next 2 days, that's what I did. So Thursday, Friday, I slept, I relaxed, I played my game. The Sims is my therapy. I played the PlayStation on my PS4, and I just took things slow, but I still got up and did things. I took my son to play group and made sure he had activities and stuff, but I try not to dwell on what happened. I just sat with my emotions. That's what I did. I just sat with my emotions, and I thanked the Lord that I survived through it. And I told myself I still have a purpose in life. Because again, if I was given more anesthesia, or if I was given a wrong anesthesia and it was my time, I would be gone. Like, whatever happened, happened, and I survived through it. That's the most important part. And I'm telling myself and I'm telling others this because sometimes we waste time, we lose time dwelling on the things that happen that we didn't want to happen. So that's how I get through some things in my life. This is the things I have to tell myself, even if it may not seem ethical, it may not seem right, but for me. So like I said at the beginning, I wanted to be detailed and tell this story because not everybody can push through this, and sometimes some things that work for others can work for you too, if by hearing it. So me sharing this, it might help somebody else, it might work for somebody else. Sometimes you just got to disregard some of the things that you went through and just appreciate that you did survive through it. I went online and I looked at how can I put in a complaint and everything like that, and so I didn't disregard everything, but the main thing was just being grateful that I did survive through it and thinking about what's next for me. Okay, I survived through that. So now what? What am I going to do now? I rest my body. That was the first thing. The second thing is to plan out what's next. What am I going to do? What am I taking a recommendation that this doctor is offering from what she found? And am I going to eat better now? Like, am I going to keep striving for my success now? I survived through that. I had all this fear of what could happen. It didn't happen. Some things did happen, but I didn't die, basically. I'm still here, so I still have a purpose. So now I have to build up the energy to keep going. And my son was there, and I'm appreciative that I was able to get up and find that energy to keep doing things with him. I took him out and we had fun. We went to the library. Like I said, we just enjoy life. So I pushed through this past week to get to this week, to get to another week, and to get to another week, and just to keep going to tell my story. So find something positive to keep going. Everything's not going to be perfect and everything's not going to be ethically right, but we got to keep going. Well, I want to keep going because, like, I keep telling myself I want to live, because those negative thoughts, those demons, those demonic thoughts in my head, they can't win. They can't win. I have to keep saying, I want to live, not I want to die. What will I be if I'm gone? No, what is life like now? What can life be like if I keep living? So that's my story. That's what I wanted to share. And that's how I keep pushing through. Well, one of the ways I keep pushing through. So this has been a struggling week, a hard week, but I'm surviving through it. And I pray for myself and I pray for others that we can live a life that is not as stressful as it has been, especially since this pandemic has passed us. So I pray for us and I pray for better days, and I wish everyone well, including myself. Amen, amen. May we all have better days. This anesthesia experience also reminds me of when I got I believe it was adenoids scraped. I don't think they were removed, but I had bad snoring when I was around 8 years old, so I had a procedure done. My mother had took me, and all I remember was them saying, "What flavor would you like?" And I said bubble gum, and it was like bubble gum, bubble gum. And I don't remember nothing after that until I was waking up, and they was like, "Hey, Shania," and it was just like bubble gum, bubble gum. This procedure, this experience with anesthesia, reminded me of that. It brought back that memory for me. When I got home and was emotional and sat and rested my body for those few days, which again is helpful, take some time to process. It's okay to sit with your emotions and let it out and feel the disappointment, feel the sadness. I thought to myself, not intentionally, but what came to mind was me being in the hospital losing my twins. When that man was like, "You're giving up," that's one of the things I had blamed myself for at times when I got the epidural, because I had always told myself that I didn't want no epidural. I didn't want any medication because I wanted to do it natural like my mother did. When my mother had me, she said I came so fast that she couldn't have no anesthesia. She couldn't get the epidural. So that was one of the things on my pregnancy plan, was to never know the gender of the baby, because my mother went 9 months thinking I was a boy and they were wrong. And then when she had me, I came so fast that she couldn't even have the epidural. So I was like, I kind of want that. I don't want to know the sex of my child, and I don't want no anesthesia. But by the time I was in the hospital and my son had already passed inside me, and they kept saying infection, infection. I'm looking at my husband's face and I'm just hearing what the doctors are saying. And I already knew in my mind that I have all these illnesses and heard all the stories and risks that it could be because I have all these illnesses. I felt like I had gave up, surrendered, and took the epidural, and that epidural killed my daughter because it pushed the process of her labor too. She was in her own sac, my son was in his own sac. So to me, in my mind, I felt like if I didn't have the anesthesia, that if I didn't have the epidural, then it wouldn't have pushed the process of her labor. Maybe she could have still survived, because then I end up watching stories and hearing other people's stories who did have twins where one passed away and they were still able to have the other one. So that kind of came about in my head too. But again, I just had to sit with that thought, let it pass by, and keep going with life. I just can't sit in darkness forever. I did sit in some darkness, but not forever. But I want to share that as well, because certain experiences could be nostalgic and it brings back memories, bad and good. And that's why I felt like that man was insensitive, and I still allow him to put this anesthesia in me. But it was the grace of the Lord, the grace of God, who was protecting me. And if it wasn't meant to be, then it would not have been. So I sat with it, I accepted it, and I'm moving forward with it. And this is life. This is what life is. But that's something else that I had experienced and I'm processing and going through and just living with. But I can't let it consume me and take over everything. My life is still worth living. It's still some purpose to my life. It's still some time on my life. So I'm living it to the best that I can.
Come on, let's go rocket ship.
What's that?
It's a rocket ship.
Let's go see it.
No, it's a rocket ship. It's a rocket ship. Hey, there's one.
Oh, I'll pick that up right now.
Wow. It's Coach.
What is it? Huh?
Look. Yeah, be a camera. See camera. a movie. What's up? It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's the stars.
Wow.
This is so money.
Wow, you're about to blast off.
Awesome.
All right.
I have a car.
Wow. Just wanted to ask you where this goes.
Oh.
Thank you.
Hey, dude. I'm going to play.
Applesauce pizza.
Applesauce pizza.